Do you think that there's anyone on the planet that doesn't want to live as their true, honest self? I can't imagine that there are, which is why the most beautiful thing that anyone has ever said to me is, I am more of me than I ever could have imagined, in no small part because of you. And this is from a client that, to this day, the most beautiful thing that anyone has said came from a client. And when we started working together, he was at this place where he was feeling very confused about the direction to take his career. He had multiple paths in front of him, had been an entrepreneur, had been a super successful corporate employee, was an inventor, patent holder, brilliantly accomplished human, and just a brilliant human, but was at a place where life could take him in many different directions, and it was unclear which was the right one, which meant it was unclear what he himself wanted. And when we are at those crossroads, it can feel like we are very disconnected from ourselves and we don't know who we are and we don't know what we want. Because seemingly, if we did, we would know exactly what direction to take. And we went through a very straightforward 4-step process, which is kind of true of any major life decision that we have to make when we are feeling stuck or when we are feeling disconnected and misaligned. And the first thing starts with taking the time to do inventory of what it is that you think you want. And in short, yes, it is as simple as like clarify what you want, but the process by which we do so is, how do we get it out of your head and onto the page? How do we take all the confusing, seemingly conflicting, nonsensical thoughts that are flying across your brain at a million thoughts a minute and make it digestible? And so, first step, we extract it out of here and take it to the page so that we can organize it into somewhat more legible like categories. We can then synthesize it and distill down the thoughts into actual truths. Because there's a lot of thoughts that fly through our heads that are passing thoughts, that are ruminations, that aren't truly grounded in us and what's real. It doesn't mean that it's a lie, it simply means like it's a thought we had. And you have to figure out how much it actually matters to you. And so then we distill it into something usable. We distill and make sense of all the raw material that we can take out of our brain based off what we understand or what we think we want. And we turn it into actionable insight, usable insight. We churn it through the filters to make sure that this is truly what you want. And we break it down into timelines, we break it down into categories of things so that you don't jumble the what you wish for your family and for your personal life with what you wish for your work, with what you wish for your personal hobbies, with what you wish for your health. We can look at it distinctly so that we know where it fits into your life. And we also understand it across the timeline too, is maybe some things you don't have to worry about for a couple of years. Maybe some things are more present. So we organize it all. That's step one. Step two is an understanding, okay, let's take stock of where we actually are today. What is true about the circumstances of where we currently are, where you currently are. That way, you can be honest with yourself about the current reality that you're in. You look at your finances, you look at your time commitments, you look at your responsibilities, you look at the people in your life that you want to spend time with, who depend on you. You look at the other things that you want to do with your life. You look at where you currently are physically. Where do you live? You look at the reality of your day to day so that we can have two very clear baselines of where you want to go and where you currently are. And step three is then understanding what is the gap between those two so that we can figure out the best path forward given who you are. Right? Because by assessing those first two things of where do you want to go and where are you today and understanding that gap, you can third then come up with the right strategy for you. And of course, it has to be tailored to you, which is why general guidance from other people usually is not enough. That tells you how they did it. But ultimately, every single one of us, in order to make it a sustainable path, we have to figure it out in the context of our existence and our personalities and our styles and our lives. And so figuring out that strategy has to be based off, what are your strengths? What are you really good at? Do you think are your weaknesses? And so how do you work with your weaknesses to still accomplish things you want to accomplish? What makes sense as a first step versus a second step versus a third? How do we sequence it out so that it doesn't get too overwhelming? And how do we understand the timeline, the energy, the resources that it requires so that you can move forward? And then the last one, fourth, is pretty straightforward, is taking consistent action, which is the same, guidance for any habit you want to build. Because basically, what you're trying to do when you're moving from one state of existence to another, when you're moving from one way of living and one way of existing and one current status to another status you want to be in, you have to become a different person. You have to have a different life. You are literally moving yourself from where you are here to where you are there. And the only thing that's going to get you there is action along the way. And so the work is that straightforward. It is clarifying what you want. It is clarifying where you are. It is assessing the gaps so you can figure out the right strategy to move you in that direction. And then it's taking consistent action. And the consistent action is every day, a little day by day. Because the point of doing that upfront work and figuring out a strategy that is tailored to you is so that you do not get overwhelmed and lose the momentum. Is so you don't feel like things are way too fucking big. That you're like, I'm here, I'm trying to get here, this can't happen soon. So we have to break it down in a way that doesn't feel so urgent and doesn't feel too overwhelming in the time that you're going to take. It has to be broken down into bite-sized chunks such that each day feels doable, and then each week feels doable, and thus each month feels doable. And however you want to track that progress, however it makes sense for you, however you respond to accountability, is then part of the system that you need to bring in or establish within your life. Like, I'm a highly undisciplined person when it comes to routines. And so that's something I've had to learn over time of how do I slowly build this habit, but not by sheer will. Like, I use what I know about myself. I've talked about the ways in which I respond well to financial consequences. I also respond well to social pressure. And so when I have social pressure, and feel like I have other people who know I have to do this thing, or when I'm going to have to pay money out of pocket if I don't do this thing, that actually helps me build the habit better. And so even if those are my weaknesses, fuck it, utilize it to move yourself forward. Like, I can incentivize myself by knowing my quote, quote weaknesses. And so I wanted to get to the gym. It wasn't getting to the gym. I wanted to be stronger, and I didn't know how to do strength training. And so I was like, financial incentive, pay something that feels expensive enough thus that I will go, and have some social accountability built in thus that I will also go. And if I don't go, I either pay that penalty of the expense that I've paid and not getting the value for it, or I will feel the social pressure. And I found a situation in which now, after a few months, I am way stronger than I have been. It's June, 4 months ago. And so I go now anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. And I had zero habit before that. I was literally doing nothing for strength training before that. And so understanding ourselves in that strategy phase is so important to make sure that what plan we come up with is tailored to what we understand about ourselves so that we can make it easy. And for someone after just a few months of working together to say to me, to put action in place, and then tell me after starting to take that action that they feel more themselves than they ever could have imagined, in no small part because of me, even though they didn't come to me asking to be more myself, was truly the most beautiful thing that honestly I've experienced to this day. Because And that is not hyperbolic, because I exist on this planet, like my purpose on this planet is for clarity, is to clarify things. And my mission is for more people to live true to purpose and self. And the fact that someone went through this process with me and ended up exactly what I wish for the world, what I hope for them and every human in it, is the most amazing gift that I could ever receive. And that is what is possible when you live true to purpose and self. Because when you help other people realize the thing you are here to help them realize or to support them in, the full realization of your purpose is the most incredible thing that could happen. And for him, he is living more aligned to self and purpose, which gives his life more color and meaning and fulfillment and aliveness. And so that's why, yeah, it's still to this day the most beautiful thing that anyone has ever said to me. And the process is not revolutionary. It is a straightforward strategy process. It is a straightforward process of figuring out the problem you are trying to solve, understanding it as clearly as possible, understanding the gap between where you are and where you want to go, understanding the specific circumstances in which you are in so that you can get from where you are to where you want to go, and then taking consistent action and checking yourself against it every single day and tracking that progress. And that's not to say you stay fixed. You might have to adjust because you try something consistently and something needs to be tweaked, then tweak it. But as you learn, you'll know better how to refine that strategy. But the 4 steps still apply. And I hope you can apply that to anything you're trying to figure out in your life.